Hi, it's Roger Sitkins, Agency Results Coach. Welcome to day number 2 of the 8-day sprint. This is all about you and your agency getting better results. Today we're going to talk about the 80-20 rule. It's one of the most important core foundational lessons that I've worked with agencies for over 30 years now, and it really can have a major impact if you'll use the power of it, okay? Vilfredo Pareto, the 80-20 rule, sometimes known as Pareto's principle, was an Italian economist and sociologist. And in about 1904, he was doing a survey, asked to do a survey of land ownership in Italy. And what he found, not surprisingly, I guess as we look back now, is that 20% of the people owned 80% of the land, and conversely, 80% of the people only owned 20% of the land. Now, this was the first time that history has ever recorded a study done like this, but it basically said 20-80, 80-20. Well, then as he looked around, it seemed that every place he looked, whether it was what percent of the people owned livestock, what percent of the people owned whatever, that this seemed to fall. And what he really created was the concept that everything in the universe kind of flows along this, that there truly is a predictable imbalance in the universe, that 20% of what we do gets us 80% of the results, 80% of what we do creates 20% of the results, okay? I've even seen this in the studies that I did a number of years ago. There's a company in Georgia, I don't know the name of them now, but they were the company that invented carpet squares. They were a commercial carpet leasing company. So you would go into a large office building, a hotel, airport, whatever, pretty good chance that that carpet had been leased to them. Well, what did they find? 20% of the carpet got 80% of the wear, and 80% of the carpet got 20% of the wear. They developed carpet squares, saved themselves a ton of money. And by the way, they were doing $1 billion a year in sales. When you think about your own personal efforts in every place of your life, 20% of what you do at work gets you 80% of your results. 20% of what you do in your personal life probably brings you 80% of your joy and happiness. If that's true, by the way, I'd figure out what that 20% is, and I'd do it about 40% of the time so I could get 180 or 160% happiness, okay? But let's look at the 80-20 rule overall. What does it do? Well, when we analyze it, we break it up by clients and revenue, and then I'll tell you about the TP here in a second. Clients, we know that the A clients, which are the top 5% of your customers, if you have 1,000 customers, look at the top 50, the top 5. The top 5% will bring you 50% of your commission income. The middle 15%, your B customers, will be 30% of your commission income. And the bottom C customers, the 80% of your customers, are 20% of your commission income. Now, you may be saying right away, you know what, Coach? That's not my agency. I've done thousands and thousands of these studies now, and I will tell you that 99.999% of the time, this is what the agency winds up looking like. Why? There's a predictable imbalance in the universe. Now, the other thing we see here is the TP, the time, energy, problems, expenses, and employees. Time, energy, problems, expenses, and employees. And what we see is that 70% of the time, energy, problems, expenses, and employees are there to take care of the bottom 80% of the customers that are only 20% of the income. And only 30% of it's driven by the top customers. There creates some concerns for us, some problems about an agency based upon the 80-20. Number one, vulnerability. If you were to lose the top 5% of your customers, 50% of your commission income, I'd be concerned about you. If you were to lose the top 20% of your customers, 80% of your revenue, I'd be real concerned because you couldn't cut your expenses quick enough. You're vulnerable if you're not attacking that from an A, B, and C perspective. Profitability, well, again, number one, if I were to lose 5% of my customers, I'm probably automatically unprofitable as an organization. The other thing is when I really start looking at time, energy, problems, expenses, and employees, I may not be profitable on the bottom 80% of my customers. It's a real challenge there for you. I believe we have to establish client service standards. What will we do for an A account? What will we do for a B account? What will we do for a C account? Every customer should get good service, but they should get service at the level that they've paid for. And all too often what I see is that the A and B customers are grossly underserviced based upon the amount of revenue they generate. And the C customers are grossly overserviced based upon the amount of revenue that they generate. Some additional lessons we've had in the 80-20 through all these studies. Well, number one, if 5% of our customers are generating 50% of our income, that means it takes the other 95% of our customers to generate the other 50% of our income. Number two, well, what do the bottom 50% of the customers really generate for us? It's kind of shocking. What about the bottom 25%? What do they generate? What we normally see is that the bottom 50% of the customers are about 5 or 6% of your revenue, and the bottom 25% of your customers are about 2% of your revenue. What about your most important accounts, the A accounts, the top 5? Well, what if we go after what we call the super A's? The top 2% of the customers in the average agency are 35 to 40% of the commission income. There's a big imbalance there. Some immediate strategies you can take back from this day 2 sprint. Number one, run a book of business report. Go into your automation system and just take a look from your largest to smallest accounts based on revenue. Find out what the top 5, the middle 15, and the bottom 80 are doing for you. Complete this analysis and take a hard look at it. You know, and if I'm wrong, let me know, but if your agency's pretty average, like most, like 99.99%, you're gonna see that it's real for you, okay? So what's next? Tomorrow we're gonna talk about high performance teams. I'll see you tomorrow.